Time to keep rolling. Speed. I got to tell you, I'm really excited to introduce, and granted, our 10-minute trainer crowd, you're used to seeing Dr. Terry Daniels. He's a good friend in Bowling Green, Kentucky. He's really, really good at what he does, Speed. And Dr. Terry, are you there?
I am here, my friend. How are you?
Perfect. Hey, listen, thanks for doing this. I'm
Oh, I'm
excited.
excited.
Dr. Terry and my wife have worked together for a while now, and we'll talk at the end after Dr. Terry and Ryan Dearbone, who you know
Yep.
Ryan on 10 Minute Trainer Network, are doing an event next month that I'm excited to officially announce here. But Dr. Terry, brother, listen, we're going to give you the controls, take it away, and we'll talk when you're finished.
I look forward to it. Thanks so much.
All right.
Awesome. Again, thank you all so much for letting me be part of this. I come on and do the videos and excited about that. But this topic of emotional intelligence is one that I get a chance to talk to a lot of audiences about. One of the things that I'll say throughout this presentation is the word rhythm. It's not in my presentation anywhere, but one of the things that I oftentimes, if you ever look on my LinkedIn, you'll see that I call myself the rhythm coach. And I like to use the word rhythm for those that may not know a lot about my background. Beyond being a coach, executive coach, business coach, leadership coach, I'm also a pastor preacher for more than 30 years. And so the one thing that I say with that is that everything in the universe is in rhythm except humans. And so many times as we look at life and life events, we run into these emotional moments that has an opportunity to throw off our rhythm. And so what I want to talk about a little bit is how do I use my emotional intelligence to have a competitive advantage. And one of the things I think is important is that when you look at emotional intelligence, knowing that you're going to have those moments of something that comes out of nowhere that brings us into something that's emotional. But the question becomes, how do I manage myself in the emotion such that it becomes a competitive advantage? And I'll talk a little bit at the very end of the presentation about those behaviors that are reflective of leaders who have high emotional intelligence and what helps them be successful. So I just want to go through this, look at some of the things that's going to help us be stronger in our emotional intelligence. First thing is just if you throw somewhere in the chat, and if someone can let me know what's in the chat, what do you know about emotional intelligence already? And secondly, what are you hoping to gain from this session? Thinking about emotion, all that we encounter, something happens in our lives, and there's an emotional event. What do you know about emotional intelligence already? And how are you hoping to gain something in this session? You know, some things that you do in your work in broadcasting. I have the privilege of sitting on the board of a local radio station here in Bowling Green. So I have some experience with, the broadcasting work of understanding my audiences. But what do you know about EIQ already, emotional intelligence quotient? And what are you hoping to gain from this session? Any thoughts from anyone on that, or any ideas on that as well?
Terry, got a little delay on the chat here, so let me give folks just a second or a beat to chime in.
Okay. Again, as you're chiming in, just think through that emotional intelligence information you already have. Have you been through some sessions? What did you learn? How did it land with you? Those are great things to think about. What do you already know?
We had one come in here on reaction, right? That sometimes somebody reacts too quickly based on the situation. So that one seems to be a kind of a reoccurring theme
Yeah.
on a couple of these chats.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Brian, for that. And again, right there is exactly what we're going to talk about. It's that reaction, and how do I manage myself? Because sometimes I may overreact. And so I want to make sure we have a chance to talk about that as well, to get some content there. Again, when you look at emotion intelligence, I want to walk through what is it really? And the first thing is that emotion intelligence is a way of recognizing, understanding, and choosing how we think, feel, and act. I have that in bold for a reason. How we think, feel, and act, shaping our understanding of ourselves and our interactions with others. Going back to the statement in the chat, that reaction, how do I react to different things? So emotional intelligence is a way of recognizing, understanding, and choosing how we think, feel, and act. Again, it goes back to my word, rhythm, shaping our understanding of ourselves and our interactions with others. Again, just going a little bit further with that, it allows us to perceive emotions. You know, we get to see it happen, and I need to look at myself. I need to perceive what in the world is going on with me. I see something happening around me, but the real question is, what's happening with me because of that which is going on around me? We have these interactions all day long. Those you all in this radio audience, you can be doing a talk show and someone throws a question out or a statement out that sort of brings a lot of emotion into it. How do I perceive that? That's one piece of the puzzle. And then, and furthermore, what am I going to do with all of that? I get to access, generate the emotions that assist my thought as I react to that. So I perceive my emotions, but how do I access, generate emotions to assist my thought? Again, understand emotions and the emotional knowledge. We're going to cover some of that today. I know the emotions, what's going on with all the emotional knowledge. And then when you look at how do I reflect, which somebody said that reflection, how do I reflect, regulate emotions to promote emotion and intellectual? How do I take advantage of all of these things happening and make it a competitive advantage? We're going to have these encounters all day long, whether it's in your home, in the workplace, dealing with an employee, dealing with a staff member, dealing with a direct report or being dealt with. We're going to have all these things happen in our lives every single moment of every single day. And so when I have a high emotional intelligence, I'm really putting myself in a position for a competitive advantage. You know, as I apologize for being just a few minutes late. I happened to be on the other link listening to Paul, and I was excited. I was motivated probably because I was listening to his presentation, and I was motivated by what he was saying. And when he brought up DISC, one of the things that I do is with the DISC, I do the DISC assessment, and it also has an emotional intelligence component to the assessment. And I do that with teams. And so I'm trying to help the whole team get that emotional intelligence so that they can all be stronger. So that's the way I would define emotional intelligence. Why does it matter? If you look at this data right here, why does it matter? A study of UC Berkeley PhDs over 40 years found that EQ was 4 times more powerful than IQ in predicting who achieves success in their field. Yeah, and the next data point we'll talk about IQ, but EQ was 4 times more powerful. This is why it matters. In all the fields that we're in, it's so important that we have the IQ, the intellectual quotient, and the knowledge. But those leaders, those individuals that have stronger EQ as well, alongside that IQ, I mean, they're going to be rock stars. They're going to change things. They're going to be the leaders that change the dynamics of all that we're doing. So you've got this EQ component, but you've got this IQ component, and how do they mesh? If you look at the next data point, why it matters, EQ scores among young people and adults has fallen, while average IQ scores have jumped approximately 25 points. That data point right there is suggesting that we're going for the IQ. And all of us in our workplaces, we're always talking about culture. We're talking about engagement. We're talking about making a difference. We're talking about moving the needle, having workplaces that people are drawn to want to work in, and building those types of cultures. Having IQ is great, but if I have those reactions that display I don't have strong emotional intelligence, again, it's going to be very difficult to build that culture, and it no longer becomes a competitive advantage. Last data point. In a worldwide study of what companies were looking for in hiring new employees, 67% of the most desired attributes were EQ competencies. 33% of attributes were other competencies. So look at the difference between the middle data point of what our young people are seeking and what the organizations are seeking, and that disconnect. I'm all for increasing my intelligence. That's so important. But what companies looking for are the attributes that show the high level of EQ competencies. And as I said before, you combine that with the IQ, again, those individuals are going to be rock stars. They're going to create that culture in the workplace that is game changing, and it will give you a competitive advantage. And so knowing how to manage myself, act, react, that's going to be the key to making this all happen. So when you look at the next question, why does it matter? EQ can be measured as the difference directly associated with personal and professional success in many areas, including communication. You all do that well. Decision-making, leadership, sales, which I know you talk a lot about that in this workshop. When you look at teamwork and team performance, you're looking at the productivity of what's going on with your workplaces, relationship satisfaction. Again, that affects culture. When you look at customer service, again, we all deal with that area right there. So I think it's so important. And if you look at that picture, that diagram to the right, again, this is the rhythm that I talk about. Improved decision-making, again, going back to that statement in the chat. Reaction, again, I'm improving decision-making. I react appropriately. But guess what that does? That decreases occupational stress. Think about what stress is caused when it's high emotion and not a very positive way. The stress that people are carrying around and walking on eggshells, that's real. And that is impacting our workplaces every single day. And so if you have emotional intelligence, you make better decisions, you decrease occupational stress, you reduce staff turnover. Guess what? People don't want to work in a high stress place. They don't want to work in a place where somebody's always off balance, off rhythm. The stress is there. So you reduce the staff turnover, increase personal well-being. That's what we all want. We want that increased personal well-being. And then you increase leadership ability. Therefore, you increase leadership performance. And this is the rhythm that's going to make us all consistently successful. High emotional intelligence, that's why it matters. And it will give me a competitive advantage that helps me to know how to navigate my pathway through my workplace. Brian, any statements in the chat?
One of the questions is, what if the entire group is off balance?
Yeah, that's a great question. If the entire group is off balance, you've got to pull back. Here's one of my pet peeves as I coach leaders and organizations is you've got to have a value base that is lived and breathed and very obvious every single day. What's the point of having those values and put them on a placard, put them on a wall, put them on a website, but they're not lived? So if everybody's off, if the group is off, I need to pull back to something that's very foundational.
All right,
Yeah, we just got another one, and
Brian, just.
Brian, go ahead and read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So how do I empathize by listening and filtering out your own personalized bias and beliefs, if that makes some sense.
It does make sense. Again, I think one of the things that, again, the organization values must be greater than the individual values. You have to make the organization values the centerpiece of everything. Guess what? We're all bringing biases to the workplace. We are, if psychologists said that over 70 to 80% of our personalities are formed before the age of 7. So this person that I am, guess what? I didn't have a choice of being like this. The thing I have to do now is as I come into the workplace, something has to be larger than me. I work for someone. And that begins, the organization has to honor, live, breathe a set of core values. That's why they're called core. So if I'm going to get rid of biases or minimize biases, then it's going to be because I'm trying to own the organizational values above my own personal values. So again, I think that's one of the things I've seen used to try to reset the group to minimize biases, to make sure that we're putting them all, putting everybody on the same level playing field at the beginning. That's one way I've seen it used.
Terry, and we obviously we got a little bit of a live delay here, so some are just coming in as we get going. But one of them was, how do I not take situations personally?
So what I'm going to go through, I'm going to give you all the 4 components of emotional intelligence that I use in my assessments, and I'll give you those 4 up front. It's self-management, or oftentimes called self-awareness. It's self-regulation, social awareness, and social regulation, right? So how do I make sure that as I look at me, am I aware and can I manage me? In my surrounding, am I aware of my surroundings and can I manage myself in surroundings? I'll tell you all, Darren may not agree with this, but I'll tell you one of the things that I was not comfortable when I first began my coaching business over 5 years ago, is networking. I'm an introvert. I mean, it may not seem as though, but I'm an introvert. And I didn't want to go be in that social setting. I was uncomfortable. And so one of the things I had to learn how to do was to go into that setting and not shut down. And sometimes it's easy to go into a setting and shut down. So as I go through these, if that question that you've asked is not answered, please bring it back up so I can hit it again. So again, when we look at, I don't know, Bill, delay here, but when you look at your understanding of emotional intelligence, how have you seen it affect some of those areas that I just went through? Any experiences that people have had with respect to how it shows up, whether it's in communication, which I know you all do quite a bit in broadcasting, decision-making, leadership, sales, any of those that are in that box that I just sort of brought up, how have you seen emotions affect any of those? Negative or positive? Anyone?
Hey, Dr. Terry, Speed Marriott here. And I think really one of the questions I have is, all right, let's say you've been leading a team for some time now. And let's face it, you probably haven't handled all the circumstances the way you shouldn't have or should have. You weren't listening. You were having your own biases. It's do it my way, do it or the highway type of a scenario. How do you press the reset button? How do you just get everyone, including yourself, to take a deep breath and say, you know what? I don't like the way that came out. Can we kind of reattack this?
I think right there, you have to put it out on the table. You know, put the elephant out on the table. Just like, hey, listen, guys, gals, we are off. We have lost our rhythm. Guess what? We're walking around on eggshells. What's making us uncomfortable? Put it out on the table. If you don't, I mean, I work with a lot of clients, and a lot of places where I see the most change with those clients, hate to say it this way, is when I hit them between the eyes of what I'm seeing. And they've never been told that. And so if I'll say, listen, if you come across to me the way you come across to your team, the way you come across to me, I wouldn't follow you either. So until you put it out there, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, we've had several folks chime in here. I mean, you know, obviously there's decision making, there's communications. Gosh, somebody said adversity. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, all of them, right?
Hey, Brian, Dr. Terry, I think it's also important to know, yes, the majority of the people watching today are in the communications business, and all will probably agree that we're some of the worst communicators internally. We're so focused on delivering an external message to listeners and viewers and online readers, but internally, sometimes we're terrible communicators. And I'd love to hear you talk about, as it relates to emotional intelligence and culture in a building. Clearly, lack of communication, I think, is one of the things that probably kills culture more than anything. Is that fair?
Yep, absolutely. And thank you for that. I agree. I think as communicators, there's that external message that we have. And I say this all the time, that, you know, even in front of my congregation, again, I'm the one in front of them, and I can walk away saying, boy, that was a great sermon, but they slept through the whole service. Something's wrong with that picture. Either I didn't read it right, or they didn't like it. But I see that, and I don't respond. Again, it comes back to that word rhythm. Everything is rhythm. And it really comes back to seeing, responding, assessing, responding. It's just that rhythm that we've got to do. And so internal communication, again, I've got to call it out as I see it, own it. And that takes boldness. That takes confidence. That takes, you know, one of the most common, you know, emotions that we have is fear. One of the most common emotions that we have is fear. I'll give you all of them. I didn't put in a slide, but the most common emotions we'll have will be joy, surprise, sadness, fear, contempt, anger, and disgust. Those are the most common. So what may be happening, as you asked the question, Darren, what may be happening internal is that I'm afraid to have the tough conversation. So I need to step back, acknowledge that I'm afraid to have the conversation. If I don't come to that truth first, something's wrong.
So, Dr. Terry, we got there's a lot going on here with things coming in, and so you tell us when you need to move on. But you said early on, think, feel, act. Mm-hmm. Is it fair that a lot of times we make the mistake because we feel, think, and then act? Is that fair?
Yeah, great question. I've got a slide at the very end, and I'll say it now.
Okay.
Is that the law of self-control goes like this: thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, and actions lead to results. Yeah. If I want different results, I better change my thoughts down here, because thoughts lead to feelings, and feelings lead to actions, and actions lead to results.
That's
okay? Whether it's positive or negative.
So good, so powerful. Hey, you keep trucking, and I know we'll have plenty more when we get to that point.
All right, thanks, sir. Again, just looking at the key components, and I'm gonna go through these pretty quick so I can make sure we got time for questions at the end. Again, self-recognition is the first component that I talk about with respect to emotion intelligence, and I'll pull these up pretty quick. Self-awareness and self-understanding. That's one of the key components of emotion intelligence. Connection of cause and effect. Everything is rhythm. It's a cause and effect. Self-appreciation, acceptance, and confidence. So this is about me right here. I need to be very confident about myself, acceptance about myself, appreciate myself. I'm not as handsome as Darren. I mean, I can tease you, Darren, because I know you. I'm not as handsome as Darren. At least his wife thinks so. But I've got
You
to
may not,
appreciate.
Darren.
I don't want to go there. I love Krista. So again, I think it's one important. How do I appreciate myself? I may not be have the highest IQ. That's okay. I may not be the smartest one in the room. That's okay. But at some point, I need to learn how to appreciate me and accept me for who I am. I need to be aware of my consciousness and my assertiveness. Am I assertive? And I was growing up in my career, and I traveled the globe as an HR leader, and that was one of my early on opportunities, was to develop my assertiveness, because I was always this nice guy, this kind of face guy, but I did not have the assertiveness. So I had to come to grips with that very early in my career. And then emotional identification, understand that this is where I am as an emotional person. So self-recognition or self-awareness, as you'll see in the assessment component, that's the first key to it. And then the next slide, I won't go through these, but if I want to build my self-recognition, these are some of the things that I can do. If I want to strengthen that, again, if I just pick one out, maybe from your previous presenter, Paul, cultivate positive mindset and optimism. Where's your mo? Even if I do that, I can build my own self-recognition. Self-management would be after that. So now that I've recognized who I am, the next key is, how do I self-manage? And this one tends to be, maybe from some things we've heard in the chat, what is the most challenging is that self-management piece. And how do I manage me? The most important component that I must have is management of myself. And I cannot let things outside of me manage me. And all of us have been guilty of that, whether, I didn't get the opportunity that I thought I should, didn't get the job I should have gotten. All of a sudden, my emotions are going in a spiral, and all of a sudden I'm 3-4 days down the road still angry at the decision. Guess what? That situation managed me. I didn't have self-management. But this is one of the biggest challenges that I found with emotional intelligence. So again, the key areas there is self-control and discipline, making sure that when I look at my goals, I'm goal-directed. I have targeted actions, looking at my integrity and trustworthiness. That's important. All of us have a brand. All of us have a brand. And this is about managing my brand. Guess what? Most of you all don't know me. The only one that knows me on here is Jan, and I met with Brian and Jennifer and Jen. And so they know me briefly. But guess what? After this, y'all might say, that guy's a kook, whatever it is. I'm creating my brand right now. Everything I do shapes my brand. And guess what? I get to write the script. If I'm sorry, I showed up late. So you always say, this guy's late all the time. No, that's just one time. But I shape my brand by everything I do. And I take that personal. So that's so important when we look at self-management. Our motivation, which Paul talked about earlier, positive psychology, and my background is psychology. Initiative, what am I doing? I'm not just going to let things happen to me. I get to push myself into making things happen for me. I own my brand. Been a coach, been a consultant doing what I do. Guess what? No work comes my way if my brand is bad. So how do I make sure I'm always managing me? Because I don't pay the bills if I don't make money, and my wife won't let me eat because I don't break any money home. So that's the way this is going to work. I have to manage me. And then creativity, agility, flexibility, and adaptability. How do I manage me and make sure that I'm owning my own personal brand? That is so important. So self-awareness and then self-management. And then secondly, here's some things you can do to build self-management. Again, you can just pick one, define a clear path to desired goals. What are my mile markers? Making sure that I put my own plan out there, maybe creating my own personal strategic plan. I know organizations have them. What's my own personal strategic plan? What's my own individual development plan? And putting those mile markers out there so that I can keep building my self-management. Social recognition would be the next component. If we look at those, if I'm in a social setting, and again, I said this earlier, I've always sort of been an introvert. I know how to do what I need to do, but being in networking, uncomfortable spaces was not my forte. But I had to force myself out there. But I recognized that. And the first networking event I went to when I started my business, I was petrified. Petrified. I was like, dude, I'm not going in there. I am not going in that room. And like, somebody pushed me through the door, so I went in, and it's been going ever since. But I think it's just, more and more social recognition. You all are in a very strong service type of opportunity. You all have the airwaves. You all get to shape society. You all shape the world. I mean, between you all are making things happen. I'm like blown away. I was like nervous when I came on, like, man, these are broadcasters. They're touching the entire world. And your service and that compassion, how you come across, how you leverage yourself, how you manage yourself, knowing that you're in a bigger audience that's bigger than you, that's so important. Holistic communication, rhythm. I'm thinking holistically about everything. All parts fit together. There's not one event that's an idle event in our lives. Not one event. Whether I had my first son or my third son, or in Darren's case, 3 daughters, there's no idle event. Emotion intelligence says, I know how to let all events work together, and I know how to keep them in rhythm, because if one event becomes too big, I am out of rhythm. It is that simple. And I've got to figure out how to not let that happen. Situational, perceptual awareness, interpersonal development, that social recognition, knowing that it's not a comfortable place for me, that's a key component of emotional intelligence. Here's some things that you can do. And let me just, again, not to put a pitch out here, but in the DISC assessment that also includes the emotional intelligence, it's got all sorts of suggestions on how to improve that area. So again, this is just a few areas where, what can I do to build my social recognition? I think I heard Darren say this before. I read it somewhere. If not, I'm giving him credit just because I like him. But that active listening, pay attention. He said something to the effect that seek to be interested instead of interesting. Did I read that somewhere, Darren?
You got that, Terry. It's we need to spend more time being interested in others instead of trying to get others interested in us. So be interesting, be interested, not interesting.
Exactly. I thought I heard you say that or read that somewhere. So I do pay attention to you, my friend. So it's so important that if I'm going to build my social recognition, I do something that is trying to say, I'm interested in you versus myself trying to be interesting. So I really appreciate that. And thanks for the plug there. So the last component that I'll share is just social management. It's the same thing, recognition and then management for both self and social. So the way you can do that is to really just develop relationships, get along with others. Everything is about a relationship. And guess what? I can tarnish it pretty quick, or I can build it. But I've got to make sure that I am building relationships. And one thing can tell you that I've been married to my wife 34 years this year, right? And she trusts me. I've traveled the globe by myself. She trusts me And it would take 1 second for me to tear that down. I'm always in the congregation. People always want to talk to me. People always call me, right? But she trusts me, and I've not given her any reason to not trust me. And everything matters. One thing I've done, I'll say this quick. One thing I've done as a pastor, and I've pastored for more than 30 years, is that I never counsel a female alone in the church or go to their house. I never have, never will, because I need to make sure that I don't cause anything to throw off this social management. Leadership and influence, those are things that we can do with social management. Change, catalyst, and response. I am intentional. That's one of my favorite words also, rhythm and intentional. I am intentional to make sure that I am a catalyst, that I am, when I go into a space, I want to honor that space, do what I'm supposed to do, and get out, right? Not for any other gain other than I just want to honor the space. Negotiation and conflict management, those are important as we look at social management. Goes back to that reaction statement that was in the chat earlier. Teamwork and collaboration, at the end of the day, this is where it's important. Here's how you build social engagement, and you can look at that. Again, I just picked the one that's jumping off. Maintain poise and calmness. Whew. Just be, as they say, never let them see you sweat. I just need to maintain my poise and calmness, right? So if I don't know something, just say, really, right now, I don't have an answer for that, but I need to maintain my poise. I may be like that duck where my feet underwater, like paddling so fast and you can't see, but above water, I'm maintaining my poise all day long. So that's so important. Just want to run through those 4, just so that I have time for it at the end. I'll leave this question for future discussion. So what is the most challenging quotient measurement in all of those 4 that I talked about? If you have thoughts there, I'll entertain those, but I want to make sure I honor our time. 3 ways to apply it. Ask the right questions, manage emotions, and just do emotional self-coaching. 3 ways you can apply emotional intelligence. Ask the right questions, manage emotions, and emotional self-coaching. If I look at, I'm gonna pull these up pretty quick. If I look at self-recognition, who am I? One book we see out there, one word we see out there all the time, purpose. Everybody's got to have a purpose. What's my purpose driven? I'm purpose driven life. Every other book is purpose, right? And I love purpose, so no disrespect there. But what is my purpose? I've got to have something that's foundation and almost those values. I've got to have something very foundational with me. And purpose is oftentimes that thing that I can look at that's very foundational. So asking those right types of questions, what is my purpose? What do I get? Where do I get my confidence, self-esteem, self-worth? What makes me happy? Again, you go back to Paul again, what's your television show you look at late in the evening that's going to make you laugh and go to sleep? That's important stuff. Then you look at, social recognition. What can I do to serve and bring value? What messages am I sharing, verbal and nonverbal? What are my key conversations with whom? That social recognition. Am I spending time in the right places? Then self-manage more questions. What are my priorities and goals? After you leave this workshop over the next 2 days, what are my priorities and goals? How am I going to take advantage of all this content, be just a little bit better? And then when you look at, social management, how can I promote abundance and mutual gain? If I'm in the business of service, you all have these airwaves. How do I promote abundance and mutual gain? How does everybody win? it's rhythm. It's rhythm. If I haven't said that word once, I apologize because I meant to say it multiple times. It's rhythm.
Hey, Terry, I got a question for you.
Yes.
And this is a variation that just came in. So you just said rhythm again. So I'm going to kind of combine the question that came in and what I was thinking. So a lot of people are thinking, yeah, rhythm's good when I'm in it, but it's easy to get out of rhythm. And
Yep.
so how do you get back in rhythm?
Ooh, great question.
Yeah.
Again, number one, understand first what threw you off. Be real about what threw you off. I mean, maybe I woke up with a good mindset and I went to the kitchen and somebody drank all the milk when I was about to eat some cereal, right? Something threw me off. I need to be real about what threw me off. You know, you see that sign in the mall, "You are here." A lot of times we'll assume to be somewhere else. No, the reality is there's no milk and I can't eat cereal. And so what throws me off, I've got to be real about that, own it, ask the right questions. Why am I here? Why am I frustrated? What's going on? I need to be real with myself. And if I'm frustrated, just say I'm frustrated. You know, if I'm just sad, just say I'm sad. If I'm excited, say I'm excited. Just be real. I think that's the first thing I would say you must do is be real about where you are and what's causing it. Because emotions are so internal that I feel them first before I express them. And so I need to make sure that I own it, acknowledge it, and then I can decide to do something with it because it comes down to self-recognition and then self-management. And this self-management is probably the most difficult of all of the four components of emotional intelligence. So asking
We had
the right
a question that we posed to everybody right before your session started. It was talking about what do I do to recharge my batteries? And we were seeing it in real time. Family came up really as the dominant. And we hear so much talk about work-life balance. And you talk so much about rhythm. And how do you keep that in rhythm?
And I saw that question come up, and that's why I couldn't get off the screen and get back on my life. So I was like, I want to see the answer, but that's what got me caught up. But and when you say family came up, family is where you get most of the emotions take place. We've experienced most of the emotions in the family, and we take our emotions in our family very personal. It's so personal, and we've all seen it. We've all had it. I've got some sons who don't do everything the way I think they should. And guess what? It throws off the emotion. And I know there was another question in that previous presentation talking about how do you keep that balance? How do you stay centered? For me, I go back to that purpose statement earlier. I know why I am here. I know why I'm here. One of the things that I know I am supposed to do with this person called Terry Daniels is to transform lives. And I take it personal. And so everything is centered on that, whether I'm talking to my wife, one of my sons, the congregation, a client, in a workshop, in a keynote, it doesn't matter. I'm always on purpose. So I think the way you stay centered and stay grounded is that you stay on purpose. You must know your purpose. And I know that's an overused word quite a bit, but I think it's important, as you say, with family being number one, trying to find that work-life balance. Guess what? Why do I go to work? I go to work because I need to take care of my family. That's why I go to work. I used to, as an HR professional, I used to say to all of my employees, guess what? We're all here for the same reason. And that's because we need an income to take care of our families. So again, the balance is why behind all the what. If I start with the what, I may get lost, but I need to stay with the why more than the what. Just this second, did you have a follow-up, Darren?
No, I was just going to say, if you want to take a minute or so here to just get us through the rest of your slides, and then we'll wrap up with a couple more questions.
Okay, perfect. Just managing emotions here. I think it's one way you can apply this. The third way you can apply it is really just self-coaching. Observe, perceive, pause, take a direct action, reflect on that action, celebrate, observe, perceive. This process of self-coaching will help me keep that rhythm and keep that balance. So that's really important there. I'm gonna go through this slide because I pretty much covered most of that. And then my last slide was this one here that I told you about. Self-control, thoughts lead to feelings, wherever you go, feelings lead to actions, and actions will lead to results. So again, the law of self-control says thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, and actions lead to results. And then
that plays right in line because we're talking about climbing together. So that was a perfect analogy there. Keep trucking.
Yeah, no, this is my last slide. Just the habits of emotionally intelligent people. I think it's important all of us want to be emotionally intelligent. And these are the habits. Focus on positive and optimism, act with assertiveness, and perform creative and actively solve problems. These are things that people who are highly emotionally intelligent, these are the things that they do. And I think it's important, if I want to manage my world, I need to manage me. And if I can manage me, I can manage my world. And that's just the rhythm of doing everything consistently and in order. So this is what I have for you. Thank you all so much. And I'll turn it back over to you all.
Hey, Dr. Terry, that's really good stuff. Speed and I were just sitting there looking at each other like, yeah, we're not very emotionally intelligent. Look at all those things.
That's right. As a matter of fact,
I wouldn't agree with that, Darren.
I want to share something with our audience, and I hope you'll go find it. I stole something from Dr. Terry. I hope he'll give me permission. But if you would real quick, and we're up against time here, Dr. Terry, but you used 3 words in one of your videos recently. You said cordial, kind, and considerate. Mm-hmm. I think in the world of emotional intelligence, the thing the world needs and our workforce needs all of us to be a little more cordial, a little more kind, and a little more considerate. Can you just touch on that real quickly?
Yeah, again, I think it's the brand. I think it's a brand. Those 3 words are intentions to really say, here's my brand, and I don't need to oversell. If I'm cordial, kind, and considerate, and I do that consistently, someone will find the value and want to connect. And I tell people all the time, people don't buy my intellect and knowledge. They buy my person first. Do I like that guy? Do I trust that guy? Do I want to be near that guy? Do I want to spend some time with that guy? And so again, those 3 words, cordial, kind, and considerate, are branding. And I think it's so important that we understand we have a brand. People are talking about us, whether we want to know what they're saying or not. They love you guys and they're talking about you. But what are they saying? You get to write the script. You get to write the script. And every moment of every day, I would challenge all of us to be mindful that we're writing our own script. And our response to what's happening with us emotionally, either it's going to give me a competitive advantage or it's not. You get to write the script.
Well, man, that's such good stuff. I want to real quickly, I know we're getting kind of we're up against it. On Tuesday, February 13th at 11 o'clock Central, and we'll be pushing this out through 10-Minute Trainer Network and getting you more information. Dr. Terry Ryan Dearbone, who's on our network as well, talks a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're going to be doing a special DEI event. It'll be a live event. Dr. Terry and Ryan and myself will be doing that. So we look forward to getting you more information. Dr. Terry, man, great job.
Absolutely
Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
Very good. One of the things we talked about this morning is what to embrace in the day and a half of us getting together. And one of the points we put in there is acknowledge to ourselves and to others, hey, we're still learning. And we definitely learned a lot from you today. So thank you. Really do
Thank you
appreciate
all
it.
so much. Oh man,
All
you
right.
all are awesome. Thank you all so much.